The Humble Spoon, the stories it can tell. Today in Behind the Gavel with Jason, we're going to talk about spoons, silversmiths, coin silver, souvenir spoons, and kind of a little bit of everything about spoons, even though it's a really humble utensil that we all use every day. If you're like me, you lose them every week in your house. My name is Jason Roski. I'm the owner of the KC Auction Company here in Kansas City, Missouri. And thank you for watching Behind the Gavel with Jason. I'm going to share this on my page real quick. It's not available. Uh, and so, what are we talking about today? We're talking about why is this being crazy? All right. There we go. Share now. So, spoons, coin silver in particular, but let's talk about a couple of other things. We don't generally think of spoons as being very valuable, but that can be very untrue. I was doing some research. You know, what drives value on a spoon is going to be several different things. What's it made out of? Is it made out of silver plate, coin silver, pewter, gold? It could be any one of those things. So obviously, the material it's made of makes a difference. Who made it? Obviously, here in the United States, Paul Revere is probably the most revered and known Revolutionary War era silversmith, and so pieces by him are highly sought. Pieces by Mike Myers in Boston are highly sought. He's 18th century silversmith. Just doing some quick research. Christie sold a set of 8 Revere tablespoons or teaspoons for $56,000. That's basically $7,000 a spoon for a spoon very much similar to this in size. Just a regular teaspoon that you would use every day. Sotheby's sold a pair of Revere serving spoons that had some historical context. They were made for Moses Michael Hayes and Rachel Myers. Rachel was Mike Myers' sister, married Moses Michael Hayes, who was an early prominent Jewish leader in Boston and was the first Jewish member of the Freemasons in Boston, was a friend of Revere's. Revere made a lot of silver for Hayes over the years. They knew each other, including a pair of serving spoons that had bright cut decoration, and the lineages and the patron and the history of the spoons was impeccable. They sold a pair of spoons for $104,000. That's $52,000 a spoon. These Fabergé spoons can bring thousands and thousands of dollars. It just depends on those really, small details. Obviously, if it's owned by somebody important, the value goes up, not because it's a spoon necessarily, but because of who owned it. Something else that is overlooked all the time are souvenir spoons. We all know that a lot of them are made out of sterling, but most of those are $15 to $20. One recently sold a Watson full-body Native American or Indian form spoon. Didn't even have a souvenir location on it, just had the full-body casting of the Native American front and back with a shield. It just sold on eBay for $5,688 for a souvenir spoon that was probably $8 worth of silver, maybe $10 worth of silver. Today we're going to be talking about coin silver mainly, though. And what can you be looking for? What makes a coin silver spoon worth more or less than others? Coin silver is kind of a catch-all phrase. Generally speaking, it refers to pre-1860 silver made by a silversmith or an artisan, not manufactured. Simply because, thanks for the likes, whoever's doing that. If you're watching and have any questions, comments, go ahead and post them here. I'll respond to them during the episode today if I have a chance to. But so we I have several examples here, and then also as far as spoon values, this is a really contemporary spoon. It's only about 30 years old, but it's worth about $100, $120 because it's made by Christophe in France. It's silver plate, but has enamel decoration. And so again, it's just a little teaspoon. But if you want to buy this brand new or through replacements.com, you're going to spend $100 plus on just that. So obviously that's going to have a lot of secondary market value because the amount of people buying a set of flatware at $100 a piece in silver plate is not that great. So the supply and demand, it changes what we have. So I want to start up by talking about this pair of spoons by the Manabach family. Very similar. You can see they're both coin silver spoons. These are from one collection we're selling, about 40 different coin silver pieces. I don't know if you can see the names on the back. You can see that they're stamped, though, the little rectangular stampings in the middle. One of them is L. Manabach, stamped Reading, and the other one is W. Manabach, which was interesting, right? Because how do you have, it's not that often that you see spoons with the same maker's name, but different. The thing about this time frame, this is 1820s and 1840s, Reading, Pennsylvania. So it's Northeast, so there's not as much of a collector market for it because there was more silver made from that area going north and east. What's interesting about these, and I think these will have some more interesting value than that, is because this is like a father and a son situation here. So silversmiths were often a family-run industry, or the knowledge and tools and wherewithal were passed down from one generation to the other. So Mr. Monabach passed it down to his son. But this is also really interesting how the forms had changed in just 20 years. You can see this one is the earlier spoon, and we kind of call this almost a coffin form. See how it's really sharp angles right there? And then it has this more of a squared off top. That's not quite, but similar to a coffin form spoon. This is more of a fiddleback. Little softer corners here, and then a rounded top on there. The other thing that's interesting is how the construction methods changed. And do I have, I absolutely do. I have a good example here to show you. All right, so these are about 20 years, 25 years apart in age. And what's interesting, and I'm going to try and catch this in the light, you can see that there are seams here where the handle meets the bowl, right? So this is a two-piece construction on both of these, which is awesome. But on the earlier piece, it's almost a rat tail. It's more of a triangular point on there. So it's really hard edges. The newer spoon has a rounded edge. There's more surface area there. It does a better job of holding together, some more strong connection. The other thing that's nice about this, and this is really hard to tell on the early one, right above the seam there, you can see I'm trying to get right in the range, a little bit of a urn decoration on the bottom of the bowl. Extremely unusual. I've not seen that before, where you can see right here, just above this, you see the seam where the spoon and the handle meet. There's just a little bit of a decoration right there. There, I just caught it really well in the light. It's an urn with handles. I don't know if I've ever seen that on a spoon of this grade before. So you have different types of silversmiths, right? You have ones who are extremely prolific, extremely talented, and then you have others that would just make silver spoons. And then you go to, this is interesting. So this is a Steiff Reposé. This is actually sterling silver. It's not coin. It's made about 1890. But this one replicates that two-piece construction here. I thought this would be a single piece right there. But that's a machine-made process on that. So even though that's an expensive spoon, it has there's no handwork on it. Some really interesting information I found out. There's a great website out there if you're interested in silver spoons, silver in general, called smpub.com. It's the Silver Salon Forums. And I found a great thread on coin silver that I could have read. I spent about 15 minutes reading it, and I could have spent another half hour, 45 minutes easily. But that's one of the things that I saw there that was interesting is that coin silver is generally considered to be 0.90, just as an average. But in spectrometer tests done by different museums and collectors and dealers over the years, they've actually found a range anywhere from about 74% pure to 96, 97% pure, which is really interesting. And that's done with the spectrometer test that we've talked about before in analyzing gold and silver value and content. One of the interesting things I saw is John Burnham, who is a silversmith, I believe in Connecticut, advertised to all honeymooners and all brides-to-be that you would get 6 spoons made for 6 Spanish milled dollars. So you'd bring in your Spanish milled dollars and get spoons in return. I'm sure there was a service charge involved with that as well. He probably wasn't doing it straight 1-to-1. So you'd bring him a Spanish silver dollar, and you would get probably 80% of that reformatted into a spoon. And so they're making, 20, 25% silver value on each one is my guess, based upon the weight that we see for spoons of that era. They're never quite an ounce, whereas Spanish silver dollars of that era are pretty well a solid ounce, and they're 0.90% fine. So even though the coins were being used were 0.90, they used other supplements in there to balance out the weight sometimes. Somebody has suggested that for every 500 spoons available that were made in 1850, there's one spoon available that was made in 1750. Obviously, growing populations have a direct impact on that, right? We had more people in 1850 than 1750 on this planet. But what they also talked about, and you read and see, is that silversmiths would advertise, bring in your old silver and have it refashioned into the latest style. So the fact that, like I said, monobox spoons, the fact that we have two examples from the same family, the fact that this one wasn't recast at some point or melted and reformed is a great thing. And so that's why earlier coin silver is so much harder to find, because it's gone through, price fluctuations in silver. In 1980, when the Hunt brothers tried to corner the silver market, coin silver spoons were worth 30, 40, 50 bucks a spoon because there were just that much silver in them. And so if you've got a box of old spoons that nobody cares about in the family and they're just sitting there and you can get $35, $40 a piece for them, well, they went in the melting pot and now they became silver bars and ingots, once they've been melted and cured for purities. One of the other things that was really interesting, sheet silver came available about 1820, give or take, depending upon where you're at in the country, but we still imported thousands, if not actually millions, of Spanish dollars, pieces of $8 kind of dollars. And the numbers went up drastically and quickly. In 1825, we imported 2.5 million Spanish dollars, silver dollars. In 1830, just 5 years later, we imported 4.7 million. So almost double the amount of coins, Spanish silver coins, were imported at that point. And then you've heard the thing, 2 bits, 4 bits, 6 bits a dollar. 2 bits, 4 bits, 6 bits a dollar. That's because it was really common to clip silver coins if you didn't have smaller denomination or change, and you would clip off a part of it and use it. 2 bits was worth a quarter. So that's where that saying comes into fashion, into presence, into being, is clipping silver dollars back in the early 1800s to create change. Or if you were just didn't need to spend a whole dollar, or you were taking it to a silversmith, they would clip it and keep parts of it used later on. You'd still have that silver value, but just not in the entirety form of a coin. So that's where that comes from, which is kind of interesting. And so some of the other things you want to talk about? And I brought in a big ladle that we're selling, which is a Georgian era ladle, to kind of better illustrate that two-piece construction here, because you can see really clearly on this big ladle where the handle is a single piece of silver, the bowl is a silver piece of silver, and then they were welded and formed together when they were made to make a single solid piece. This is obviously can be a weak spot, and so a lot of antique silver will be ripped and torn there. And usually that silver ends up being melted, because once it finds that area, once there's damage to a piece of coin silver, it's really cost prohibitive to get it restored unless it has a lot of meaning to you. Or the last thing we're going to talk about is regional differences in value of coin silver. So if you look at the United States growth, we started in the Northeast, Boston, New York, Philly, DC, Baltimore. That area is where the country was heavily populated. That's where all the artists, silversmiths, merchants were based. That's where all the money came back through, even from those who explored out west. They had to buy supplies and rations from the Northeast. And so the money was all going there, and that's where most of the people were. So there was a lot of things made, bought, and consumed in that part of the country. When you move south, when you move west, you have fewer people, you have fewer resources, and you have fewer artisans. And so there was less product available. There are less patrons to purchase it, but there are also less people to make it. When you get down south, especially silver, the Civil War decimated southern collections of silver for many reasons. That's been over a century's discussion being had, but between looting, melting just to buy food, whatever you needed to do, southern silver became very scarce. And again, as we talked about, as silver prices have fluctuated over the years. But generally speaking, coin silver made in the Northeast after 1800 is worth about the silver weight. There could be a little bit of a premium, or people will buy it at the silver weight just to keep in a collection. They may not necessarily scrap it. The further south you get, the further west you get, the more value those pieces can have. A coin silver teaspoon from, say, Georgia or from Louisiana might be worth $30, $40, $50 today, where a coin silver spoon from Boston might be worth $8, $10, or $12, $15, depending upon condition, if there's decoration and who made it specifically. But that's the difference in regionality. I have here a coin silver, a larger spoon, but this was made in St. Louis. So if this piece here, it's more of a tablespoon than a teaspoon. If this was made in Boston, it's going to be worth $25, $30. The fact that it was made in St. Louis, it's probably going to bring $50 or $60 at our next auction because it's made in St. Louis. There's collectors for St. Louis pieces in particular. There are also the scarcity factor of St. Louis, although it's more of an East Coast town than Kansas City is, and it was developed earlier than Kansas City was. It was still a smaller metropolitan area, and there's not as much of that silver available than there would be from Pittsburgh or Philadelphia or Boston or New York. So regionality can play a huge difference in value, a huge difference in desirability for the value of the silver. And so if you're looking through grandma's drawers of silver and she knows she has a bunch of coin silver, you really do want to spend some time looking at who made it and where did they make it, when was it made. Almost every silversmith has been accounted for in the States somewhere, and you can find most with a Google search, and just type in Mead and Company coin silver spoon, and more often than not, you'll find something will come up, whether it's an eBay listing, First Dibs listing, replacements.com sells some coin silver pieces. You'll get some hits somewhere for that specific silversmith in coin silver. So thanks for watching. It's July 5th. Hopefully everybody has their fingers and toes left after yesterday here in Kansas City. It rained quite a bit, so the fireworks were heavy, but they weren't as heavy, and they weren't as the time frame was much more condensed because we had rain in the afternoon, had a break around 8 or 9, then it started raining again around 9:30. So a lot of the fireworks were not blown up last night. Expect to hear a lot of that coming up over the weekend. I'm sure you will if you're in your neighborhoods too. Hopefully it's nice where you're at. Next week I will be in New Orleans at the National Auctioneers Association Conference and Show. On Wednesday I'll be presenting a course on social media marketing. On Friday, I will be being interviewed live during the International Auctioneers Championship competition. During the competition between competitors, they interview different auctioneers around the country, and they're going to interview me about antiques and collectibles. That'll be next Friday from 2 to 3 o'clock here Central Standard Time. We'll share that on the page here as it happens, and post the videos as they come available after the fact. Don't know if I'll do Behind the Gavel or not next week because of that. I'll be checking out of the hotel and things along those lines. So we'll see. I might just do a quick jump in. If you see us next week on Facebook or Instagram, go ahead and wave at us, hit the like, share with your friends, tell everybody we're in New Orleans. If you're in New Orleans, want to get together for a cup of coffee or a beignet at Dumont in the morning, let me know. I'd love to see people around the country. Thanks for watching. Have a great afternoon. If you have any questions, you can post them here. Send us a direct message. If you're watching on YouTube, post them in the comments below. You can always email us at info@kcauctioncompany.com, info@letter auctioncompany spelled out.com. Give us a phone call at 816-283-3633, and we'll be happy to answer any and all questions that you may have. If you have anything specific you'd like us to talk about here, we'd be happy to do so. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend.